All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to make our Georgia O'Keeffe inspired artwork. We're going to do step one, which is to make our skull. This is going to be maybe a cow skull or a bull, because Georgia O'Keeffe liked to take walks around her house and find skulls out on the desert and to draw and paint them. So we're going to make one as step one in our artwork that we're going to make inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe. So you have a big piece of white paper here. This is a big 9 by 12 piece of paper. And the first thing you're going to do is fold this in half. Now you're going to fold this in half long ways, so hot dog style. So we're going to get a big, tall piece of paper, folding it in half this way. Fold that crease really well. So we've got a nice skinny piece of paper here, and you're going to turn the folded edge, this is the folded edge, turn it towards you, okay? And we're going to make our skull kind of a cool way. We're going to use your name to do this. So we're going to write your name along this edge, and I want you to write it nice and big in here. Don't write it tiny right here on this edge, because that's not going to make a very big skull. So I want you to take your fingers like this, and you need your letter, your first letter, to be at least that big, okay? So if you've got a really long name, you're going to start down here closer to the end. If you've got a shorter name, you can start a little farther down. So my first name is Emily, so I'm going to start with an E right here. So I'm going to make the first letter nice and big. And you can do it in either print or cursive, however you would like. You're going to write your name along this folded edge. All right, once you've got your name written, the next thing you're going to do is draw a line around your name. Now this doesn't have to be perfect, but you're just going to draw a shape that kind of follows the shape of your name. So I'm going to start up here at the beginning. I'm going to draw a line around that first letter, and it's going to come down just a little bit, and it goes up around these two letters and down, and at the end I'm going to make it come down to a little bit of a point at the end. Okay, so I made a shape going around my name. So everybody get that finished. Now, keeping your paper folded, I want you to turn it up this way so that your first letter is up at the top. And this is going to be the top of our cow's skull. And so I want you to give this cow a horn. Now, you may have a lot of room up here. You may just have a little bit of room. So you may have room to do a big horn. You may have room to do just a tiny horn. I don't have a whole lot of room, but I'm going to make it turn up this way. So I'm going to start right here up at the top, and I'm going to make a curved line that goes up like this. And then I'm going to start at that point where I stopped and come back down, and notice it gets wider as it comes down, and stop right there. Notice how it got wider. And this side of our paper is going to be the back of our drawing. So if you mess up on this, don't worry. Just do another line and fix it. Maybe I want this to be a little bit wider. It does not matter if you mess up on this back side. Okay? Now this right here is going to be the basic shape of our skull. So keeping your paper folded, you're going to get out your scissors, and we're going to cut this out. Now we're going to keep this folded edge together, so don't cut that side, but we're going to cut around this line that we just made. We're going to cut, don't cut off the horn that we just drew, cut around it, and then cut all the way off this side. Now the best way to cut, take our scissors are just going chomp, chomp, chomp. We're just, this hand is just going up and down, and then our other hand is doing all the work. It's turning the paper. So we line up our scissors on this line, and then our other hand, our non-cutting hand, is doing all the turning. So we're going nice and slowly. I'm just moving my scissors up and down, and my other hand is just turning this paper to keep my scissors in line with that line. I'm cutting very carefully, and I'm not cutting off my horn that I drew. I'm cutting carefully around it. I'm going to cut off that excess. And cut all the way off the page. And then if I unfold this paper and lay it out, I have something that looks a little bit like the skull of a cow. And yours is going to look a little bit different, obviously, since you have different letters in your name. So everybody's is going to look a little bit different, a little bit unique, which is kind of cool. Now we're going to come in and we're going to put some details on this to really make it look like a skull. We're going to do a little bit of shading. We're going to add in a few details. Now the first thing we're going to do, we're going to cut off this point just a little bit, because most of these cow skulls have a little ragged end down here. They don't have a point down at the bottom. So I want you to take your pencil and draw something like that. Just kind of make a shape that is going to cut off that bottom edge, and we'll cut that off in just a minute. Okay? And then we're going to draw in 2 nostrils right here down at the bottom, and these are going to be nice and big. Oh, I actually want to go this way. So a big oval shape right here. And these skulls are going to be symmetrical, which means that anything we do on this side of our line, we're going to repeat on this side of our line. So let's do the same thing over here. And then why don't you go ahead and color these 2 circles in nice and dark with your pencil. All right, next, why don't we actually draw in our line of symmetry. Now we've got our folded line here. Our line of symmetry doesn't have to completely follow that because this is a natural form, but roughly right down that center line, we're going to do a line. Okay? And then right up here, just below our horns, you might have an area that kind of bulges out. This is where the first letter of your name is. This is where we're going to put our eyes. Now they don't have to be perfect ovals. They can be a little bit of an odd shape. You're going to put where our eye holes were. So there's one. And again, this is symmetrical, so I'm going to do the same shape over on this side. All right, and again, I want you to go ahead and color these in nice and dark with your pencil. All right, so next we're going to do a little bit of shading to make our skull here look a little bit more three-dimensional. Now when we're doing shading, we want things to go from light to dark. We want to use a lot of value. We want to think about where our light source is coming from. So if we were looking at a real skull, this part in the center would be a lot higher. There'd be more light hitting it. and these parts on the side would be farther back. There'd be less light hitting them. So our areas of shadow would be about from where our eyes are down to where our little nostrils are. So I'm going to do a very, very light line. You don't want to draw this very darkly. I'm going to do a very, very light line from this eye down to this nostril here. I don't think you can see that real well, but I just drew a very light line right there, and I'm going to shade from that line down. And the way I'm going to shade, I'm going to turn my pencil to the side. I'm going to hold it like this. So instead of how I normally hold my pencil like this, I'm going to hold it like this. I'm going to turn my pencil to the side, and I'm just going to rub it lightly. And I'm going to fill in all that area with just a light rubbing of pencil. Make sure you come all the way up to that line if you drew one. And you can come back and take your finger and smooth this out just a little bit so that you don't see your pencil marks so much. So I'm going to start by doing a light rubbing all over this area so that I get it all shaded in. I'm going to go all the way up right here next to my eye. But then what I want to do, I want to come and make this lower edge down here, the farther away it is from the light, I want to make it even darker. So I'm going to come and press a little bit harder and make it a darker value down here at the edge. Okay? And that'll make it look like this is going even farther back into the distance. And again, you can take your finger and rub it in to make it look nice and smooth. And you may have to keep working on this shading. Sometimes shading takes a while to get it to look exactly how you want. You may need to come over this lighter section a little bit more. You may need to make your line look a little different. You may need to come over this darker section several times to make it dark enough. So keep working on this until it looks the way that you want it to. And once you've got this side looking all right, you're going to do the same thing over on the other side. All right, let's put a few more details on to our skull here. A lot of times these bones that have been sitting out in the sun will have some cracks going across them. So let's put some cracks going across the center. Now the way you want to do this, hold your pencil really loosely in your hand because you want this to kind of wiggle and wobble. So I'm going to do a crack that comes from this side, and it kind of wiggles and wobbles up here to my center line, and then it's going to go back across to the other side. And then maybe there's one right a little bit lower that goes down here. You can put these wherever you want. Kind of wiggle and wobble across the surface of your skull. Maybe there's one that goes kind of up this direction. A few cracks off that way. You can put those wherever you want. All right, and then let's put a few lines to mark where our horns start. I'm going to put a line there and there. Notice I made a nice curved line. And then I'm going to do a little bit of shading on the edge of my horns here. So again, our light is kind of coming in the center. So I think I'm going to keep this side of my horn light, and I'm going to do shadow on this underside here. So we're going to do a little less shading. I'm just going to shade this underside. To make it look like this horn is rounded, like it has some value. And this side goes back. So again, I've shaded that side, and I'm going to do the same thing over on the other side. All right, there are the details on our skull. If you want to add any more cracks, if you need to work on your shading, any of that anymore, please go ahead. The last thing I'm going to do is cut out this little section that we drew at the beginning. Right there. So finish adding any details to your skull, and then once we get these finished, the next thing we're going to do is work on our backgrounds, which are going to be we're going to use some Native American patterns to make a blanket that this is going to be sitting on. I can't wait to see what your Georgia O'Keeffe inspired skulls look like.